That. Hey everybody, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen here, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of our Autism Fitness interview series with our pro coaches. Derek Wyback, how you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me, Eric. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I was looking forward to this one. You have become one of our go-getter coaches who has just well, not just started out, but recently began offering in-home programming, and it sounds like your athlete roster has grown significantly since then. So, what I wanted to know, we're midweek, or midway through the week right now. So, what's one thing that stands out from your sessions this week so far?
Oh, progress. So, since I'm a rather new coach with a lot of my athletes, it's been wow, it's been a whirlwind of new athletes coming on board.
Mhm.
Trying to meet them where they are in locations that are sometimes a little bit challenging. I don't have a gym, so I'm meeting athletes either at their home or like a local park.
Yeah.
And I have a wide range of athletes from I have like three 8-year-olds all the way up to, well, I have a couple females that are in their mid 20s.
Mhm.
Um, and some of the younger students, it's been, just introducing them to the program and then also being kind of a in between a coach and a playmate sometimes, right? So a little bit of play-based activities, introducing activities, that are part of the Autism Fitness program.
Mhm.
And then, I have a couple athletes that have been athletes for, wow, they've been working out with other trainers for a little while,
Mhm.
but introducing them to new activities and then progressing them,
Mhm.
as they need, which has been kind
Mhm.
of exciting. And they're, so that means ordering, either heavier medicine balls or whatever we might need. So it's
Yeah.
fun, but it's good to be along on their journey, that's for sure.
Mhm. And what's one thing this week that stands out with a particular athlete? Is there anything? I know midway through the week, you're like, I don't even remember the last 48 hours of what went on, but is there anything that sticks out?
Um, well, yesterday I had a new athlete. I met him. This is our third time together. And I think what really stuck out yesterday was just trying to um, corral the expectations or set expectations for parents because, an 8-year-old boy trying to do, we'll say fitness related activities, right? I try and make them as fun as possible with a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Um, so that there's like a finale, like a finality, I guess is the word. I guess something's been accomplished in our routine. It's not just doing curls and how long is this going to last, right?
Right.
Um, so it was a like I mentioned before, a mix of some of our autism fitness routine with
Mhm.
playing in the park. And
Yeah.
then some shared activities like kicking a soccer ball back and forth. My
Mhm.
turn, your turn, my turn, your turn.
Right.
The mom was a little bit concerned, like, well, we didn't do a whole lot of exercise. I was like, that was 45 minutes of like me and him attending to each other. And look, we got three exercises that we repeated from last time and two new ones, shared activities, and he didn't run away and he's leaving happy and I'll see him next week. So
Yeah.
that was great. So yeah, just setting those expectations for parents, like, and reminding them this is a challenge for them and we got a lot accomplished in a short amount of time. So
Yeah. And that you said was a first session also, right?
it was an early one. It was our third time together. I
Okay.
met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually met him. He was one of the first athletes that called me, new athletes.
Mhm.
And so at first I met him at his house, um, which was fine. There was a little bit of a distraction because there was a new toy train there. And
Yeah.
then last week we met at the park, and then yesterday again at the same park.
Yeah.
So it's just that familiarity, and so it's hard for the parents to sometimes see the progress, but I'm a little bit more in tune with it, and yeah, I just keep track of it on a conscious and subconscious level to a certain degree. It's not all tracked, it's not all on paper, but I have
Yeah.
to remind the parents like, hey, we did two new things today that they've never seen before, and they participated, and yeah, so
Yeah. I think the expectation management component, it's a conversation that keeps coming up in autism fitness, and being able to share progress, because progress will look different across the board, but what typically happens is it's small little increments of progress, and then it seems like it happens all at once. But
Right.
there are certain factors to it that lead into that foreseeable all at once moment, which isn't actually an all at once. It's the accumulation of all these little things.
Right.
So I'm glad you bring that up, because the expectation management, there are multiple parties involved. There's you as a coach, there's the
Mhm.
athlete, there's one parent or two parents who are involved in all this, and everybody is coming from a different perspective. Even if there are shared goals, everybody is coming with their own personal perspective and experience of that also.
Yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes I have, cultural challenges, I guess you would say. So I have kind of a Chinese community that I've gotten involved with here in San Diego, and this athlete is part of that community. And through word of mouth, I've gotten other athletes as well. Um, so some, not so much language barriers, but yeah, I haven't come across anything in particular yet, but I'm sensitive to it. Just kind of aware. Uh,
Yeah, like different cultural norms and that sort
Different
of thing.
cultural norms, and then sometimes you get to see some of the different parents, especially with the younger students. Some of them really understand like play-based
Mm,
theory, and some of that experience where they're like, "I'm fine with you just playing with my kid for the first
yeah,
couple weeks,
yeah,
right? And then introducing things. And sometimes, I might just do like a ball throw. Like, we're just gonna play. It's not
yeah,
exercise. There's no demand. I'm gonna throw it to you. And next thing you know, they're just mirroring that and throwing it back. And mom will kind of notice, and I just won't make a big deal of it.
hmm,
Um, but some of the other parents, they're like, okay, we want to see this program in action. I was like, okay, that's going to come in time. You're going to get hints of it today,
right,
and let's celebrate those moments. But it's not going to be an hour of straight fitness.
yeah,
We need everyone needs a little mental break, and this is a 8 to 10 year old child. So
sure.
uh,
Yeah, it's interesting. So you have a couple different components of that. You have the developmental age, like the actual how old is this kid or adolescent or teen or adult, and then you have the what comes into it with the diagnosis or that athlete's particular profile, their
mhm,
level of motivation, their level of communication and cognitive functioning, their processing,
mhm.
and coming back again to that expectation management as well of what do we need to do now? This is the way that I think about it, and I'd love to know where your headspace is at in those moments. I look at it particularly with younger athletes, like you know what, we're here right now, but the the buy-in to it, like the level of motivation and the level of wanting to participate, to
Mhm.
me, for especially for younger individuals, is so critical, because if they're if they enjoy it when they're 12, then we have a good shot of them enjoying it when they're 22. So looking a decade later. So when you're in those situations, especially because you're working with some younger individuals as well, is that something that you keep in mind? And if so, is that something that you ever articulate? What are those conversations like?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of internal conversation more than external with
Sure.
parents, or maybe um, former colleagues, I
Yeah.
guess. The way I try to describe it is that, I'm just like a big sixth grader,
Yeah.
right? And I try to be, especially for the really young kids, and I have a lot of experience with like TK first and second kindergartners, right? Like, um, I'm a role model in some ways, as like an older kid, right?
Yeah.
I can still be playful, but then like I'm going to model for you what success looks like. And I think I try to be a model more than like an instructor or someone that places demand. And I'll show them like, okay, when you do this, let's say, not only fitness, but I teach reading as well.
Mm.
Um, and okay, this is what it looks like when we practice for a long time. You're gonna get here, right? This is like trying to get them to see the future, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then something else that came to mind just recently, and we get inundated with so much information. I forget where I picked this up from, but I really, um, tried to like tattoo it in my brain. And the phrase is flow, don't fight, right?
Mm.
And I want to go back and figure out where it came from, but I think it was just like a great way to describe my subconscious attitude towards what I'm trying to do in life in general, but then also working with, all my athletes. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we're going to, giving them choice, giving them autonomy, other phrases like child-led comes up to a certain degree. No, I'm always trying to
Yeah.
pull them back towards and get them to, um, initiate activity or participate in what we're doing here. There are long-term goals, but in the
Mm.
short term, you kind of have to move with them and then hopefully naturally, or maybe a little bit with some encouragement, come back to what we're doing. But, it's a relationship that you have to build with the kids, and my adults as well,
Yeah.
so that we're working towards a common goal. But I need their buy-in. So it has to be a relationship. And they're picking up on my um, feelings and energy, right?
Mm.
On many different levels. So I just make sure that I come and I'm present and I'm with them. And, we're going to do a little bit of activity. We might play a little bit. And hopefully everyone feels a little bit better and is a little bit stronger. But yeah, that flow don't fight is kind of maybe the theme for at least the first part of this new adventure of my company.
That you just mentioned a word that was at top of mind for me, and I was going to say that also. It just sounds like being present is a large part of the coaching approach that you have in, all right, what's in front of me right now is
Mhm.
what is to work with,
Right.
regardless of who the individual is, where they're at. I think that phrase, and I like seeing it, the meet them where they're at, because that's a big thing now, on social media too. A lot of uh, therapists or therapeutic interventions and practices are starting the paragraph with meet them where they're at. And then the question is, well, how do you define that? Not only how do you define that, but how do you utilize that
Mhm.
in practice also, particularly when you have an athlete who is dysregulated or there's something that needs to be explained, something that needs to be modified. When you're looking at an athlete that has made significant progress and they're having a session where they're not having it,
Yeah, yeah.
you have to tailor the experience to what's going on for them while still having a goal, an intentional goal.
Right, right. The other thing too that I really and this comes from, working with some difficult students and difficult athletes in terms of just a wide range of students that we are working with, right, or athletes that we're working with, is I like to experiment. And I think I have to, on a not a minute by minute basis, but sometimes you have those epiphanies where you figure out like what is motivating that student, and it's just like, I'm going to try this, right? Let me
Yeah.
try something that is like never seen it in a textbook. I've never seen
Mhm.
anyone else do it. Just on the fly, I'm going to try something. And sometimes it fails miserably, which
Yeah.
is, more often the case, but every now and then that one thing comes up that you can kind of come back to every now and then. You're like, okay, this will work for us, right? Or this is a connection, right? That one common, maybe not interest, just because of I'm the teacher and they're the student, and there's a usually a large age range, or there's a gap there,
Yeah.
but something that we can connect with. Like, again, it's a relationship, right? And
Mhm.
it's not a group fitness class, it's a one-on-one situation. So I'm trying to attend to their very specific needs. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so experimenting with locations, different activities, um, all sorts of things, right? So it's fun. My days are not boring. We'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes things will give you clue. Sometimes you'll get a personality that'll, with an athlete that'll clue you into, I can be funnier here, or I could be sillier here, or this athlete does not like when I joke around too much. So I need to be really straightforward and measured and not necessarily robotic, but they like really succinct, direct feedback as opposed to an athlete where you can joke around with them and you can get ridiculous and they enjoy that. And I think oftentimes you may not, in my experience, you may not figure that out in the first or second or third session.
Yeah, yeah. No, and yeah, those conversations, I mean, because you have, or I do at least, you're one-on-one with this athlete from 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little bit more. I did have an experience like that with a new athlete last week, and she's a little older, phenomenal athlete. She's got Down syndrome, and the sweetest girl in the world. And so she goes to a day facility for all sorts of different activities and whatnot. And I mentioned something like, and we were having a good conversation, and I was like, I basically said something like, "Oh, are you a troublemaker in school?"
Yeah.
She took it as a negative, and she's like, "No, I'm very kind." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's right. You are very
Yes.
kind."
Yeah.
What I meant was, do you like to have fun in school and play? I
Right.
was like, oh, of course, right?
Yeah.
So just yeah, just some of the language that typical people might use. You just you have to tailor it a little bit. But yeah, each athlete is totally different. And then I met a new student on Saturday, another 8-year-old, boy. He was very robust, wanted to play, and it got physical really quick. Like he wanted that physical interaction,
Mhm.
and so we were rolling on the ground a little bit with some of the equipment, some of the balls and whatnot, and a little bit of wrestling. But then it's like you have to have those boundaries, right? Like I am not your friend. It's like
Yeah.
um, like I am your teacher, so it's Coach Derek or Mr. Derek or whatever you want to call me. Like we can wrestle a little bit, like you know, but you have to set the
Sure.
boundaries. I'm not a play friend, so uh,
Yeah.
it's a fine line that you're always trying to walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you don't have your list of rules out, also it's like, all
Yeah.
right, well, how do in the moment, how do we teach this as a boundary
Hmm.
without turning it into like a punitive kind of thing? Also, like an absolutely, absolutely not. So how do we keep things engaging and motivating while still having that structure there
Right,
as
right.
well, particularly when you're working with younger athletes as well. And sometimes you'll get the feedback. Like I have an athlete I'm thinking about the other day. I was joking around with him with something because he has a really good sense of humor. And he gave me, like, literally said to me, okay, can you stop now? I'm like, all right, dude. I'm like, absolutely, thank you.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
And to not take offense at that, also, like, all right, he's giving me a very clear indication that he wants to move on from
Right.
this. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But being willing to flow with that and say, yeah, okay, next thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing too is, we talk about structure. It's not a classroom, it's not a school setting, or even a gym setting for the most part that I'm currently working in. So, in the home setting, there's like I said, mentioned before, the train set, or with another new
Yeah.
athlete. I have a 23-year-old athlete that's coming on board, and it's the dog, and so those different things.
Mhm.
But the great thing is, like, what I've discovered, just in the last 2 months, is that not only do my athletes with neurodiversities need personal training, but also their families. And,
Mhm.
I had the mom of one of my athletes ask, like, hey, you did great with my 8-year-old, son. Would you mind working with his 10-year-old brother who's overweight?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
so mom would come to the park, and I was like, Mom, put your shoes on, like, let's go. And it became a
Yeah.
family thing, right? And now we're actually integrating the older brother into
Mhm.
our activity. So I'll spend 45 minutes with my younger son, or the younger brother, and his name's Aiden.
Yeah.
So I'll spend 45 minutes with Aiden, and then for 15 minutes, or maybe 20 minutes, his older brother Aaron will come in, and
Mhm.
we'll do we'll do some paired activities. Like
Yeah.
we were doing some rope pulls yesterday with a sandbag, and they were,
Yeah.
and the younger ones like, let's make a team, or we'll do, the ball tosses back and forth. So integrating that, and then one of my new athletes, her dad is recovering from cancer,
Mm.
and he was, really excited about his daughter getting involved in a personal training program. Like, you should, what are you doing today? And he's like, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm recovering from cancer and I want to ski again. I'm like, you should join us,
Yeah.
like, and then when I'm gone, you guys make this a family thing and you know what to do together, with a very simple equipment, or whatever it might be. So it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fine. I think back to when I first started out and I was doing a lot of in-homes also. And coming from a really regimented clinical background, because I was still working in a structured clinical setting as well, where we had, pretty much full control over everything in the environment. If something was on the wall and it was distracting, we could take it off and put it in the closet or whatever.
Right.
And then doing in-home, you're like, oh, I can't do. So I'm curious because we do have so many, particularly um, certified pros who are similar in their trajectory as yours. Is that they're getting certified and then they want to start running in-home programs, and they've got two or three families and they're starting out. I had to get over the fact that I could not control for a lot of those environments, and there was going to be chaos. There were going to be siblings. There was going to be, it's after school or after day programs. So there's going to be dinner cooking. There's going to be people, coming home from work, that kind of thing. And I think for me, part of it, part of what put out the raging fire in my head was, well, if we can develop the skill here and if we can maintain focus and concentration, then there's a much better opportunity to generalize it because it's chaos, but it's controlled chaos. Um,
Mhm.
so how is that for you? Because you're working in numerous homes with numerous athletes of different ages, and then you're, in the park, you're in different environments. So what has been I guess it's a two-parted question. What has been your experience working in different homes, and what really works? What works to your and the athlete's advantages there? And then what would you say if you have other aspiring coaches who say, "Yeah, I want to do, start out doing in-homes." What would you say as things to recognize, and the things you can control and the things you're never going to be able to control?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I love those situations, like going into the unknown. I have just kind of an adventurous spirit, and
Yeah.
I like instigating things. Like, I've started other companies, some successful, some not, but even in my teaching career, I was kind of known as, like, just the idea generator, right? And my principal was great at, like, take this personality profile, because she wanted to know where everyone fit in, right? She was a Harvard graduate,
Mm.
brilliant mind, very business minded too, and she knew that I needed autonomy and whatnot, but she'd like to have me involved in things because, number one, I was a little bit older. I wasn't a typical teacher coming out of, like, school at age 26 or something like that, and I had various experiences, and I was very student minded. Like, is this really going to benefit the kids? I didn't just go along with the um, I didn't go along a lot, and I asked a lot of questions. Anyways, to get back to the point, um, I like to start things, and I like the beginnings of things because I don't know what
Mm.
I'm getting into sometimes. So for new coaches, I would say there's a lot of demand out there. Don't be afraid. You don't need a whole lot of equipment to get started. You can make do with a lot of what people have in their homes, whether it
Mm.
be a folding chair that you can do, like, just squats to, right?
Mm.
You don't need to have a plyo box. I
Yeah.
was using that the other day. I'm like, oh, here's a chair. Can you show me, squatting? And within 10 seconds, I could see that there was some um, anomalies or some weaknesses in her legs that we needed to work with. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, we can do this. And this is something I can tell her to do at home on a daily basis, right? The other thing too is that I guess it's just like like any other relationship, right? And I have a young daughter that has a boyfriend, and we're trying to tell her, like, not only are you dating that boy, but you're dating the whole family, type of thing. So you got other relationships. With my athletes, like the parents are very involved, right? And you're creating relationships with them as well, and showing up at their home and being present and being interested in what they have going on in their home
Yeah.
is very important. So I like it. It's very personal. I'm basically invited into their space, into
Yeah.
the family. And I hear stories of other trainers that have worked with some of these athletes for years at a time, because they need the consistency. And that's what I look forward to, is watching some of these athletes grow and staying with them for the long term.
Yeah. And it goes, at the risk of being cliche, also it goes quick. And you're like, how have I been working with this person?
Right.
They were in single digits when I started with. Now,
Yeah.
we're looking at, high school or equivalent programs.
Right. I mean, what is your longest standing athlete at this point?
24 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? The kids aren't even that old yet, right?
Oh yeah. So, and I was working with him in person for, years and years and years. And now I work with him virtually also. And it's so, it's fascinating because at this point, we both know each other very, very well. And I could like just tick my head up this way and he'll adjust whatever I need him to adjust, like if it's his feet or if he's just, so there's just this connection there where it can be the most subtle thing. And he and I, even through a screen, like I
Yeah.
I am not one for virtual training for the most part because a lot of that nuance is lost. But because I
Yeah.
had that nearly like 2 decades with him in person, I can
Right.
just do the same thing. And he has the visual acuity to follow along, but he just knows.
Yeah.
I could pause at a certain point in my speech and he'll know. He'll know like I'm getting impatient because I know that he knows that I know kind of thing, which is
Yeah.
fascinating too. And it's, because that's a case study, like it's an N of one. So what
Mhm.
can you really do with the data there? But there's a lot just from a humanistic perspective also. I really like your take on it also in being invited into that home because you become part of that ecosystem. It's a lot different when someone is walking into your space than if you're walking into their space, especially with something like fitness that initially can be aversive or overwhelming. And that's something that I think any coach needs to be really conscientious of. And it may not be a big deal. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to make it seem like this is a a wall of impenetrability that someone needs to get through every time they work in an in-home situation, but you have to be cognizant of the fact that this is someone's home space and it is their territory and
Right.
some of the rules sometimes need to if there are cookies that just came out of the oven 10 minutes ago, would that happen in a gym? Probably not, but it's happening here, so
Right. Right.
you
Yeah. No, and it's, the other thing too is it's part of a community, right? Well, let's just say this, like my morning started off 7:30 with my athlete, Bridget. So
yeah.
7:30, I show up, she comes running out, she's ready to go. Hi, Derek. And, we talk about breakfast, what are you making today? Two fried eggs. And today was, English muffins or something like that. So we talk about like toppings on like avocados, so we start off our day doing that. But then the other thing too is that neighbors see me and I get to meet some of them. Actually, the other day, 2 days ago, um, I was with my athlete Diego, and two doors down from him, one of the guys that I see at the gym at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
He's walking out the door. He's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, this is Diego," and he's like, "Yeah, I watched that kid, from 20 years ago. I've been living here since 1983 or something." And I was like, "Oh, I'm his coach," and So it's a community thing, right?
Yeah.
And especially in North County, San Diego here, it's a pretty fit community. People are
Yeah.
active. They really appreciate it. It's a it's always a hot topic. What are
Mhm.
you doing these days? And what
Yeah.
sports are you into? It's just the way that that people connect. But then yeah, going back to like the home setting versus like a gym or a school. Like when I was at school, I was in charge. Like,
Mhm.
and there was, and then there's people above me and I'm following rules. And then the kids, there's like a hierarchy of rules, right?
Sure.
Going to someone else's house, it's, again, I'm invited in. And at any point, they could say, I'm done. You can go home,
Yeah.
right? So I'm always on my best behavior. But I think it's more comfortable for my athletes as well to a certain
Mhm.
degree, which can bring certain challenges. But like my athlete this morning, Bridget, she invited me to her soccer game on Sunday.
Yeah.
She's like, "Are you free? Sunday?" Because we talked about different sports and whatnot. She's like, "I'm playing soccer 3 o'clock on Sunday. Can you make
Mhm.
it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can. I'm going to see a new athlete Sunday afternoon, which is quite a distance from me, but I'm kind of excited to see him. I'm like, I'll jet back to come to your soccer game and
Yeah.
take part in that as well." So, and I think seeing the kids in different environments, just again, that relationship where here, I'm here to support you. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it takes it so far beyond, and not that it necessarily is, but it takes it so far beyond transactional. Also, like you're in the home, you're interacting with everybody, you're a part, like three or four people on the block see you, you're saying hi. Like again, you're becoming part of these different things. They're like, yeah, I'm showing up at their soccer game. And I
Yeah.
just think of it as such, well, you're in San Diego, so everything's organic, but it's just such an organic venture to be a part of all this and bring it back to not that there's such a huge separation or needs to be, but from the business perspective also you're at that soccer game and someone says, hey, oh, and what do you do? Oh, well, I'm her strength and fitness coach.
Yeah. Well, even the mom, actually, mom wrote me a nice little like recommendation because I took a video of her daughter working.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can I post this on social media? Like, I don't want to do anything without your permission.
Yeah.
And she hadn't gotten back to me for like a week. She's like, oh, let me talk to my husband
Yeah.
and my daughter as well. I was like, no worries. Like, I'm not a big social media poster, but I thought it would be kind of cool. Um, and then so I asked her, I'm like, hey, can you write me just like a little bit of a recommendation? And she's like, oh, here's something. And then feel free to, post it with the video. And then
Mhm.
after that, we were talking about the soccer game. She's like, I'll introduce you to, to everybody there. And, so it's just another community that you're involved with. So,
Yeah.
before it was the school and that community, which I'm still loosely involved with, I know a lot of those families and some of those families actually became some of my All Kinds Move clients. They're like, you work so well with my kid, I have funding for personal fitness. I want to hire you. Right.
Yeah.
And, so continuing that working relationship and it's a little bit further progressed. Um, and then, yeah, it's fun the parents are like, I've only known you as like a teacher. I knew you were active, but then, they see me in action. And one of the moms the other day was like, wow, you're really an athlete, aren't you? Cause she watched me like bound across the park with her son. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm trying to keep up with your kid, but she's like, most men your age can't move like that. And so
Right.
they appreciate it, and most kids their age, like her son is really, really active. She's like, a lot of kids don't like to play with him because he's just constantly moving.
Yeah.
Oh, that won't be a problem with me. So it's a good time. I don't know. I think
That's strange too. Like that wouldn't have been a problem decades ago. Like kids that move around a lot. Like, yeah,
oh yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I never sat still. I don't think I was ever grounded for more than like an hour. And I got in
Yeah.
trouble plenty. My mom was like, get out of the house. So
It's the years of coming back scraped up and like not knowing how it happened.
yeah. I mean, my wife tracks my daughters. I would
Yeah.
never anyways. Oh, she's doing this, she's doing that. I mean, I was gone. And when I had a bike when I was 15, I was in the next town over with friends or girlfriends, and my parents had no clue. I just, show up at night and anyways, those
So
days are
what
good.
did I'm curious because you have a very interesting and diverse background from education to entrepreneurship. What were some of the skills or even some of the lessons that you've had in your own professional life that you brought into the to All Kinds Move? Like what were the things that you were assured of that you're like, yes, I have a handle on this and I've
Mm.
learned this lesson before. What were some of those things gave that gave you what could be considered an advantage when you started out?
Oh man. So I think a lot of it is like trust your gut to a
Mhm.
certain degree. You have some knowledge, but you're never going to have perfect knowledge, right? So with the companies I had success with, I had experience in the cycling industry.
Mhm.
I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt of a company that I started with a friend of mine 12 years ago.
Mhm.
He actually came to me. We had worked together at one point, and he came to me after we were both doing different projects, but he sold a company that I helped him establish, I guess.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I've got some money. I need a new project basically. And I was like, okay, I think there's an opportunity. And I hadn't really thought about it, but he's like, these are some of the things I'm looking at. And as we talked through it, I was like, oh, I know there's an opportunity in this, like basically high end cycling market. When it
Mhm.
came to All Kinds Move, that was a little bit different. Part of it was I was driven away by the school system because it was so paperwork heavy, and it really took the focus off of benefiting and creating beneficial instruction for the students, and that was really kind of eating my soul. Uh,
Mhm.
and so this was back in October. I saw a woman in her 60s who was a personal trainer at the gym that I go to every day, and I was like, "Oh, that's something that I can, work towards.
Mhm.
Why don't I get my certification?" And then I remembered, wait, already have this Autism Fitness Certification, and that was it. And I'm like, I know there's demand out there,
Yeah.
and just intuitively, but this is what I want to do. Like, I'm just going to do it. So yeah, just started filing papers and,
Mhm.
whatever else it would have been. And again, like I mentioned before, I like starting things. I like the creation process. When it
Mhm.
becomes a grind, I kind of get a little bit bored.
Yeah.
Once I know it's a success, I'll start looking for other things. But I think with the All Kinds Move project, there are so many different avenues. And I actually have people coming at me like, hey, I have a social group. Can we integrate with this?
Mhm.
Or, I met a friend the other day who's comes from, kinesiology and personal training, and him and his friend are starting a gym. So
Mhm.
we might have coffee, and maybe I can integrate some of, or at least have a home base for like some gym based,
Yeah.
activities. Um, all the experience, yeah. I mean, you basically hit it on the head. I have a wide variety, and even people that meet me for the first time or like the second time, they're like, "I want you to write down someday, all the different acts, all the different jobs and you know activities that you've done." But um, it all builds upon each other. It comes for it's all person based. I'm not a data analyst. I like working
Yeah.
with people,
Yeah.
and then I just keep refining like what I do.
Mhm.
It's usually some kind of physical activity. I like being involved in the community. I like being involved with the youth in our community. So I've had a kids mountain bike team, keeping them active, right? Um, and now after my special education career, now I'm basically doing the same thing for this neurodiverse community. And I try and keep it as local as possible so that I'm not
Mhm.
traveling all over the place and I can serve as many people. So yeah, one day I'll write that list of all the different activities. But yeah, I think it all just kind of builds up to this. There's the business portion of it that I have some experience with, and I just kind of like try to put it all together, to make
Yeah.
something. I just wanted to create the job that I wanted to work every day. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it also sounds like a lot of what you bring into it is you are you are allergic to unnecessary paperwork and or bureaucracy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's let me get away from that and have structure, but structure in a way that works for you, that's conducive to something that you can bring to people in the immediate without having to deal with any of the things that don't allow you to do what you want to do 100%.
Right. Well, the other thing too is I always came from small businesses that were entrepreneurial and they were always in the early stages.
Mm.
So you had to be very aware of like, I mean, you would make like razor thin decisions, like, is this beneficial or not? You know,
Yeah,
and my wife would sometimes ask me like, why are you taking phone calls at 9 o'clock at night? Why are you working on the weekend?
because I have to.
Yeah. And I'm like, you don't realize that and I was, if not the main salesperson, always one of the top salespeople at some of the companies that I worked
Yeah,
at. I'm like, I feel a certain sense of responsibility. Like I'm at the front line. Like if I don't do my job, these people don't get a paycheck to send their kids to school or to college or whatever. Like
yeah,
a high level of responsibility. And it might look like, fun and games and going to bike races and selling clothing and all this
yeah.
other stuff. But there's also an art to it. And there's a high level of responsibility. But when it comes down to it, like in those entrepreneurial settings, you make decisions. Like if it works, you'll know right away. And if it doesn't, right? Like, is this costing me money or is it making me money? Is it saving me time or costing me time? Right? You're always like, what works? So I've learned through that process to be just very I don't know, you just make those split second decisions sometimes to
Yeah.
and in the school system, you're I came in with that mentality, but it's not like you would ever be fired, right? I don't know. It's a little bit different. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's just say that I would get in trouble if I didn't do the paperwork, but if I didn't provide quality instruction, no one would ever say anything. Where I really wanted to focus on quality instruction, and I could care less about the paperwork. But this is the stuff that would get us in trouble as a school and as a teacher, the
Right.
paperwork. But it was the least beneficial to my students.
So
So
you just felt like the locus of importance was there was an imbalance there.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
So and from there, so now talk a little bit about because I again I think that your practice or your coaching resonates with so many of our other coaches and future coaches out there also because a lot are going to start. I was just in a conversation with a parent the other day discussing the fact that she had reached out to me about her 23-year-old son who has a very challenging profile, and she said, a typical gym doesn't necessarily want or isn't capable of having him in there
Right.
as well. And that's one of a few reasons why I think that so many people who get started with their autism fitness certification, they are um, they are either winding down their first career or they decide that they want to do something with fitness with this population. They don't want to be where they were before. So some of it similar to your story, I think also is knowing the right time to get out, but wanting to know what's next, and then not immediately saying, "Well, I can't go to the gym down the block because it's not going to be hospitable."
Mhm.
And through not even necessarily a fault of their own. Sometimes you don't have a safe and inviting environment when you have, barbells and chalk and music blasting. And look, I like training in some of those environments, but again, you have to consider the population.
Right.
And a lot of our pros then decide to go, in home or do in homes as well. So I think that that your process is one that many of our certified pros, if they're not already emulating, are going to want to.
Right. Well, we're lucky because San Diego has such good
Yeah,
weather. I mean, it was quote unquote cold yesterday, which was maybe 63 and foggy.
yeah,
Um, so I had a sweatshirt on, I think, for at least for the first 5 minutes, but it was perfect for working out. So and there's a lot of open space here in San Diego. So If home isn't a good environment, or the parents are like, hey, he's a little too comfortable here, he's going to want to watch TV or something like that. Uh,
Mhm.
we just find a park and we do that. So I do have an interesting athlete that I'm going to meet for the first time on Sunday.
Mhm.
And his mom was telling me that same situation, she tried to do it at a gym, um, and he has some what would be the word, apraxia? Is that it?
Yeah.
Just constant movement, right?
Mhm.
And he's always in like fight or flight mode. And so she
Yeah.
walks into the gym and she's like, "Oh, there's 3 doors here.
Yeah.
This is going to be a problem, right?" So I was like, "Look, let me come to your home." She's like, "We have a backyard." I was like, "Let's start there and figure it out." And then she was also saying that he likes to do like multiple things at once. So she's like, "We might want to try like doing some fitness activities with him while he's like watching his iPad from the distance." I was like,
Mhm.
okay, because he needs like some kind of like, stimulation.
Yeah.
You're the expert on your child, right? And there's a lot of stuff that I'm walking into. I have no clue what's going to happen, right? But that's part of the thrill for me. And then I just leave there with a smile, and I'm like, I'll see you next week, and we'll try again, and we'll work towards some long term goals. But yeah, it's I don't know, I like it, and I'm outdoors,
Mhm.
um instead of being in air conditioning in a building where it's windows and whatever else. So, and
Yeah.
it's good for my athletes too. Like, we're gonna go outside, I don't care, bring your dog. The dog
Yeah.
watches, the dog was watching us the other day,
Mhm.
throw the ball back and forth. So I don't know, it's just another way to make it personal for them, right? Because that's a
Yeah.
big part of their life. That dog is part of that family, you know?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's the kind of the overarching image that I get is you just want it kind of embedded in their real life.
Right. Yeah, I want them to do it when I'm not there.
Yeah,
That's the ultimate goal. If they say, hey, look, I started working out by myself, I don't need you anymore, great. Like, mission accomplished, right? That's the dream goal, right?
yeah, yeah. So, and that's a great segue into the last question that I wanted to ask you is success looks so different for every athlete. If you could compartmentalize that into just for you, when to fill in the blank, when this thing happens with any of my athletes, I know it's been a successful session, or I know that something really good has happened. So what's that thing for you? I with me, I'm such a technician. When I see an athlete like self-correct, like adjust themselves with an exercise, or all of a sudden it clicks and they're like their motor control is on and you see them focus and I can step back, like, okay, this is like that's for me as someone who's highly technical in my
Right.
approach. That's what really does it for me during a session.
Yeah, I guess. So how do I know it was a success? God, I don't know. The parents want me back.
Mhm. Sure.
They're like, "Are you available next week? Can we set up another time?"
Yeah.
Um, or they'll write me like, "Hey, my kid, really liked it. I could tell that my kid really liked you."
Yeah.
Um, I guess that's more of a feeling based, success, not more on the technical side.
Well, I think
Yeah,
it sounds like that's also it's the acknowledgement of the family that it's being recognized. Like they recognize that what you're doing is effective and helpful.
right. Well, I mean, I have this mom that I'm going to meet on Sunday, an athlete, her son, he does spelling for communication, and
Yep.
he's like, we tried music lessons, and he's spelled out absolutely not, because he did not like that teacher, and
Yeah.
he
Oh,
will he will tell you, like, if he doesn't like you, she's like, we'll know in one session whether or not this is going to work or not, because if he doesn't like you, it's not going to happen.
yeah.
So it, yeah, I guess, which is great. I guess it goes back to that fight or flow thing. Like, I don't want to fight an unnatural situation. I don't want to date someone that doesn't want to date me, or work in a business that doesn't appreciate, what I provide. And likewise, I'm not going to work in a business that I don't, feel if we don't have the same virtues, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to go about it. I don't want to be stuck in a relationship with an athlete or another person that is not mutually beneficial, right?
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting world to be in, but I like it. There was some funny story from yesterday actually. So my athlete was late. He was at the dentist, and mom was like, "I'm so sorry, we're late." And they showed up maybe 45 minutes late. I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. I can wait for a little bit." But then I think I had another appointment, or forget exactly. But there was
Yeah.
all these other kids at the park. It was actually a group of Japanese kids. Their parents were probably all born in Japan, and then the
Mhm.
kids were born here. So they were fluent in both English and Japanese. And I lived in Japan
Mhm.
some years ago. And so I started talking to the kids. Well, they actually started playing with my equipment. I was like, "Well, here, let's do this." And then we had a tug of war match, and then I set up like an obstacle course, and then it was relay races. And the mom yesterday was like, "Oh, you're back. Nice to see you." And she's like, we want to hire you. You were so good with the kids. We want to hire you." I was like, "Oh, that's very sweet of you." But I'm like, "I usually work with kids with, disabilities or neurodiversities." And she's like, "Can you put it in my phone and like Google Translate?" So I'm like, so I wrote autism. She's like, "Oh, I get it." And Down syndrome. She's like, "Okay, that makes sense." But she's like, yeah, she gave me the thumbs up. She's like, "That's cool." But her kids were really sweet. And they gave me a bunch of treats,
Yeah.
and then I see them at the park now every Wednesday. They're like, "Hey coach, what's up?" So
Yeah.
yeah.
What's so great about that also is it demonstrates that so many of these things, the coaching, the activities, it's all universal. And what we're doing is just taking what we know as far as practices and capabilities and delivering it to the population that doesn't normally get that.
Hmm.
Because it needs to be a certain set of traits. You talk about your experiences, your background, both personally and your background professionally, also. All of that is preparatory
Hmm.
for this, and you get to bring those things in that work, and then through further education and continuing to learn on the job,
Right.
you get these things that you're able to take with you to other situations and athletes and families.
Right.
Kind of
Well, I mean,
the Mary Poppins effect.
yeah. Well, I mean, go back and you just said the word generalization, right? So with my athlete Aiden yesterday, he wanted to go to the playground, so we did a little bit of time on the swings. Well, then there were monkey bars, and then there were also the little zip line that's on the
Yeah.
roller. We've seen those, right? So
Yep.
we started playing. I mean, there's upper body strength right there, and
Yeah.
that's what you want to do. You don't want to go over here and pull on a rope or whatever. Like, you have this whole structure right here where we can climb and we can play, and there's other kids
Mhm.
instead of being over here by yourself. And now I'm going to try and integrate some of those kids. Like, "Hey, you guys go to the same school. Do you know him?" So maybe
Yeah.
there's a connection there. Like, "Oh, you know each other from the park. He's in third grade. You're in fourth grade, right?" And then, the brother gets involved and whatever else. So it's integration with the family. It's an open setting. Maybe there's some friendships to be had there. Who knows? But then, yeah, taking those skills that we just learned, like the ball throwing or the pulling or the pushing or whatever we might be doing,
Yeah.
and we're going to use it in real life over here. We're going to use it on the zip line, or we're going to do the monkey bars.
Yeah.
I can't do the monkey bars anymore. I need to learn that skill.
Yeah.
But those are the things that we want to do, right? That's the ultimate goal, is that you're interacting with your age group appropriately, socializing, having fun, making connections. That success for me, going back to that question that you asked me 5 minutes
Yeah.
ago, that is the ultimate success. You're
Yeah.
playing in a group with peers, social interaction, tap in naturally, and you have the physical ability to do that.
Yeah. And for you as a coach, I don't necessarily, when I'm working with my athletes out of a gym, I don't necessarily get to see directly, okay, well, how are they applying this to their real life?
Mhm.
But you have a kid, doing band pull downs and then going over and then hanging from the monkey bars, and you're like, oh, okay, I can see what they're doing really well. I can see where we need to continue to progress. Like,
Right.
it gives you such a clear indication of how they're utilizing it because there's no other pretense, because it's not a structured situation. It's okay, how do they really use this when they need to really use this?
Right. It's the ultimate assessment, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like you're assessing, but
Yeah.
because of your, the way that you look at it, you're you're not looking at it as, oh, now I have data to analyze. It's like, let me see
No.
this in the real world. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So,
That's cool. Derek, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. I'm really impressed with everything that you've done in such a short amount. Well, it's not really a short amount of time in the entrepreneur world. We know that there's nothing
yeah.
that is a short amount of time, and it's all, it's a lifetime that leads up to, okay, this next 5 minutes of whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I would have found this earlier, but there's, perfect timing for everything. So,
Sure.
yeah, my goal is to, stay young and fit as possible so I can keep doing this with
Yeah.
my athletes. It's motivating for me. Like I wake up at 3 a.m., I get a bunch of work done. I start moving at 4 in my garage, and then by 5 o'clock I'm in the gym, and then I start seeing my athletes most days at like 7:30, and then I'm gone most of the day. So the challenge now is trying to find space for new athletes.
Yeah.
Um, as I'm starting to book like Sundays, but it's exciting. So I really go out of my way to like try and string together, athletes and fit everybody in. But it's a good challenge to have. So I'm excited. It's very motivating.
Well, if anybody out there is interested in getting a spot in what is a dwindling schedule for Coach Derek, where can they find you?
You can find me at allkindsmove.com, and my main area of service is North County, San Diego. So like north of the 56 up to like the 78, if you know the area.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'd love to come meet you and be a part of your family and keep your athletes healthy.
And it sounds like we're going to need some more Autism Fitness certified pros around that area, north and south, and everywhere else in the world. So if you're ready to become an Autism Fitness certified pro, the link is in the description down there. Coach Derek, again, thank you very much. Very much appreciate your time and growing expertise.
Likewise, Eric, it's a mutual. So you led me on this path, and I appreciate it.